Most people are ignoring AI dashboards, even though they are one of the simplest and most profitable types of systems that you can sell to businesses, which means that you're missing out of thousands of dollars in revenue because you don't know how to build and sell them. But don't worry, because in this video I will show you how you can build these AI dashboards step by step, and also how you can sell them to businesses for thousands of dollars each. So if that sounds interesting, let's get started. So as I said in the intro, in this video I will show you how you can build AI dashboards just like this. Now, how we're going to build them is by using the Lovable plus N8N combo, which what that means is we're going to use Lovable to build a nice looking front-end interface, which is basically going to be our AI dashboard, and then we're going to also use N8N in the backend in order for our dashboard to actually be functioning and being able to perform different tasks. Because if we just use Lovable to build a front-end interface, then our dashboard will basically be worthless, since it will not be able to perform all the tasks that we need to do in order for the system to be valuable and us being able to sell it for thousands of dollars. Which brings us on perfectly to how we're actually going to sell this AI system, which is by using Instantly, which is a platform that allows you to send cold emails, since that is how we're gonna be able to reach out to potential leads that would be interested in buying our AI dashboard. And I will show you exactly how you can do that and use Instantly to set up cold email campaigns just like this one over here, so you can contact potential leads and then pitch them your AI dashboard. But as I said before, the first thing that we have to do is to build our front-end interface with Lovable. So to do that, we need to go over to lovable.dev and come over here in Lovable's text box and simply type, I want to build a beautiful looking dashboard that can display different data that I have inside my Google Sheet. Then I say this is what information I have inside my Google Sheet, and what I'm going to do is I will go over to the Google Sheet that supposedly have all the information about my clients, and as you can see there's a lot of information over here, and I will simply copy all of these things over here, and then I will come back over to Lovable and simply paste them in. So Lovable has a very good idea of exactly what information I have inside my Google Sheet, so you can then go and create the relevant analytics sections for this information. And then I say this dashboard needs to have analytics for all of this data. Now if you think that is a lot, do not worry, I will have the full Lovable prompt for this front-end interface, along with the Google Sheet and along with the template for the backend automation that I'm going to build inside N8N, inside my free school community, which I have linked in the description below. So if you want all of these assets, simply click on the link, join the community, and you will have access to them immediately. And then I simply tell it, don't build any of the backend functions, I will build all of them with N8N, you just focus on building a nice looking front-end interface just like this. And what I will do now is I will go over to Google and search for nice looking UI, simply find one that I like. Let's say I really like this one for example, and then I will simply come over here, download it, and then come back over to Lovable, click on attach, click on add files, then simply upload the interface I just downloaded, and then I will come over here and click on enter. This way Lovable also has a visual example of exactly how we want the app to look like, making it way more likely to give us a good end result. But while Lovable is building the front-end interface of our app, let's go over to N8N and start building the backend. So I went over in my N8N interface, and the first thing that I have to do is to add in our trigger. So all we have to do is to simply come over here and click on add first step, and then we need to come over here and search for a webhook. And the reason we're choosing to use a webhook and not any other trigger is because the webhook allows us to connect the front-end interface that we're currently building with Lovable to the backend automation that we're going to build in N8N. And then all we have to do is to come over here and change the HTTP method from get over to post, since that is the type of request we're going to be sending over to Lovable in order for us to be able to send and receive data. So now all we have to do and copy this test URL, and then if we come back over in a Lovable interface, we can see that it also finished generating the front-end interface of our dashboard over here, and as you can see this does look very good guys. But the problem is that right now, while this does look very good and it would be useful to a business owner, it simply does not have accurate data, because this is fake dummy data, since we haven't connected our Google Sheet to this interface over here. That's why we took the webhook URL, because right now we're going to come over here in the Ask Lovable tab. I'm going to say create a button which every time I press it, it triggers this webhook URL, which is going to send you back data. So make sure you take the data and you display it over in the interface. And what I will do now is I will simply come over here and paste in the webhook URL I just copied, and then I will simply come over here and click on enter. And now what Lovable is going to do is going to take this webhook URL embed it inside our app and create a button which every time we press, it's going to trigger that webhook, which we're going to use to retrieve the data from our Google Sheet. Boom, as you can see, Lovable just finished making the changes, and if we scroll down here, we can see this button that is called Fetch Data, which, if we go back in our N8N interface, we click on Listen for Test Event, and then we come back over to Lovable and we click on Fetch Data, we can see that this successfully triggered the webhook URL, because if we come back over to N8N, we can see that we do have an output over here, which means that our webhook was successfully triggered. But just like a webhook is set up right now, nothing happens because there's nothing after the webhook. But that's going to change right now, because after the webhook, what we have to do is to come over here and add in a Google Sheets node, and specifically we need to come over here and select the get rows from Google Sheets, since that's what we actually want to do. We want to retrieve data from inside a Google Sheet. So to do that, I will simply come over here, select my Google Sheets credentials, then I will come over here and I need to select the specific Google Sheet we want to retrieve information from, which is called law firm clients in our case, and then we simply need to come over here and select the sheet number. And now, if we come over here and we execute the step, you guys will see that we successfully managed to retrieve all the information that we have inside this Google Sheet over here over in our N8N interface, which is exactly what we wanted. And now, the last thing that we need to do is to simply return this information back in our Lovable interface so it can be displayed in our AI dashboard. So to do that, I will simply come over here and I will search for a respond to webhook node. And then the only change I will make over here is I will come and select all incoming items, since we want to return all of this information back in our Lovable interface. And we need to make one more change, because we need to come over here in the webhook and change the respond parameter from immediately to using a respond to webhook node, because if we do not make this change, we will not be able to use the respond to webhook node. So now, just to test this, I will come over here and click on Listen for Test Event, and then I will come back over in my Lovable interface and I'll click on Fetch Data, and boom, as you can see, it is triggered and successfully fetched all the data from inside a Google Sheet. And as you can see, it is being displayed over here, but it did not change in these columns over here, which is definitely not what we want. We want to hide the data from here and make sure the app actually takes all of this data and displays it in these dashboards. So that's exactly what I'm going to come over here and tell Lovable to do. So I will say, make sure you don't display the data inside the webhook data section, and you actually display it inside the dashboard, specifically in the analytics and also in the graphs, since that's what I actually want you to do. And I will simply come over here and click on enter. So now all we have to do is to wait a little bit till Lovable also makes this change. And boom, if I come back over in my Lovable interface, as you can see over here, guys, it just updated all the information in our interface to match the specific information that we have inside our Google Sheet over here. Since, as you can see, it says that we have 23 active clients, which is exactly the same as we have inside a Google Sheet. Also, it tells us our average case value, our collection rate, and our total revenue for the past 12 months. And it also displays all of this data in these very nice looking graphs and also charts over here. And at last, we also have a client's overview, where we can see all of our active clients, our completed cases, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, this dashboard is already pretty good, since it visually depicts all the data that a business has, but we're going to go and improve this even further, because the second step of this build is going to be an AI chatbot, where we will basically create a chatbot over here in this interface, and the user will be able to chat with all of this data and ask questions about it. So for example, you could say, how much money did we make of James Conner and Liam Jackson, for example, and then the AI is going to find this data and it's going to add these two values, and then it's going to tell us how much money we made from both of these two people. So to build this, what we need to do is to first of all go back in our N8N interface and click on the plus icon, and we're going to search for another webhook node, because this is going to be a brand new connection that we're going to make from a Lovable interface to another backend automation that we're going to build in N8N. And again, we need to make the same change the method from get over to post. So now that we have this webhook, let me also bring it over here so we know this is a separate thing. What we need to do is to actually copy this link and connect it with a Lovable front-end interface. So to do that, I will come back over to Lovable and I will say, now create me a chat interface section where I will be able to chat with all of my data. Don't build any of the backend functions, because I will build all of them with N8N. Just every time I ask you a question, send over this request over to this webhook URL. And then I simply went over here and pasted the webhook URL just copied. So now all you have to do is to simply come over here and send over this request, and boom, as you can see, Lovable just created this brand new section. Now we can obviously improve the way this looks. Let's first get the functionality of it nailed down. So for example, let's say I want to ask about David Huang and how much money he spent in our organization, I could come over here and say, how much money has David Huang spent with our organization? And then I would need to go over to N8N and click on listen for test event in order for a webhook to be expecting to receive data. And then I will come over here and I will simply click on enter. And boom, as you can see, this workflow will start successfully, because if we come back over to N8N, we can see that we do have an output, and over here we have the exact question that we asked over in our N8N interface, which is exactly what we wanted. So let me actually come over here and pin this data so I don't have to rerun this if something goes wrong. And now what we need to do is to build the actual agent that is then going to be able to look inside the Google Sheet where we have all the relevant information and then give us an accurate response based on that data. So to do that, I will come over here and I will click on the plus icon, and then I will click on AI and I will select AI agent. Now the first thing that we need to do is to come over here and change this from connect to the trigger node to define below, and then we need to give it the user message, which is basically us telling the AI agent exactly what we want it to do. So let me turn this into an expression and open this up, and I will come over here and say, this is what the user wants you to do. And what I will do is I will come over here, I will find the question the user asked, and I will drag and drop it over here. And then I gave it this long system prompt. Now do not get intimidated by this, guys. This is going to be included in the template that I have inside my school community. So you can basically download it, and this full prompt is going to be inside it. I told it that's going to have access to a Google Sheets tool, which it can use to retrieve rows, and it can also append some new rows if I tell it to do it in the chat interface. Then I also decided that I'm going to give it access to even more tools so we can make it even more useful, and I will also give it access to the Google Calendar tool, where it specifically can read events that I have inside my Google Calendar and also create events so you can schedule appointments. If I say, for example, hey, schedule a meeting with Bob for 3 p.m. today, it will be able to go and book that for me. And then I also decided to give it access to the Gmail tool, because maybe I want to send an email to Bob, basically telling him some update about his case. I will just go over there, simply say, hey, send an email over to Bob telling him that, hey, your case has been dismissed. And then this AI agent is going to be able to go craft that email and send it over to Bob automatically. And I give it access to these two extra functions over here because I want to make this as useful as it can possibly be, in order for us to be able to sell it more easily to business owners. Then I also gave it some more context, and then I told it, don't expect the user to tell you exactly what specific actions you need to take, because it's not going to tell you, oh, use the create an event tool in Google Calendar. He will just tell you, hey, book a meeting with that person. So you should understand that, and based on that context, do what you're supposed to do. And then I also give it access to the time, because if you didn't know this, AI agents do not know the current date and time, so it is always useful to give it access to, especially if you're doing things with your Google Calendar and you want it to book meetings for you. So it's always useful to add that in. And now we'll simply come over here and close this off. What we need to do after that is come over here and add in our chat model. For our chat model, I will personally select OpenAI. You can obviously select any chat model you want. And then what we need to do is to give it access to all the tools that I told you before. So let's first start with the first tools, which are the Google Sheets tools. So I will simply come over here, I will search for Google Sheets, then I will select my Google Sheets credentials, then I will make sure the operation is on get rows for this one. I will select my Google Sheet, and I will also select the sheet number, and that's basically it. We're done setting up this node. The next node we need to do is again a Google Sheet node, but this time we want to give it access to the append rows in Sheet. So I will simply come over here, I will change the operation to append row, and I will also select my credentials from over here, and then I will again come over here, select the specific Google Sheet and also the sheet number. And now this is going to fetch all the columns that we have inside the Google Sheets, which means that we'll have to fill all those in with AI. And since they are quite a lot, I'm going to fill them in and I will be back. And now that we fill those in, it's time to go and give it access to the next tool, which is going to be none other than the Google Calendar tool. So I will come over here and I will search for Google Calendar. Then I will come over here and select my Google Calendar credentials. Then over here you need to select the specific calendar you want to use. Operation, we will leave this on create, and then I will simply fill both of those in with AI. And I will also come over here and I will add in a description. I will also fill this in with AI, and I will also come over here and add in a summary, which is basically the title of the event. I don't know why in N8N it's called summary, but that's what it basically is. And then I will also fill this in with AI, and we're also done with this node. And now we need to give it access to the second Google Calendar tool. So I will come over here and search for Google Calendar, but this time I will come over here to operation and I will select get many, because we want to give it access to get many events from inside a Google Calendar. I will again come over here and select the calendar. I will actually choose to fill this in with AI, and I will basically fill everything in with AI. So we have successfully set up our Google Calendar tools as well, and the only thing that's left is to set up our Gmail. So I will come over here and I will search for Gmail. Then I will come over here and select my Gmail credentials. On to, we will fill this in with AI. Subject, we will fill this in with AI. Email type, I will turn this into text since we want to send simple text messages, and again I will fill this in with AI. But also make sure you come over here, you click on add option, and you append N8N attribution, and you simply turn this off since you don't want this annoying message that says, oh, this email was sent by N8N at the end of each one of your emails. So now we're basically done setting up this AI agent. The only thing I would also advise you to use is to give it access to one more tool, which is going to be the Think tool, because what the Think tool does is it basically tells the AI agent to pause, take a moment, and rethink of the response that it's going to give you, which indeed makes it give you a better end result. That's why I would strongly advise you to use this tool, and you can also give it access to some simple memory if you actually want to. Let's say we want context window length 100, and let's simply define below the key, and let's input some random numbers, which basically means that this is going to remember our past 100 conversations. And now what is left is to simply come over here and use a respond to webhook node again, because the AI agent is going to give us a response, but we want the response to be returned back in our Lovable interface. So now that we use that, and we also come back over here in our webhook, and we change the respond parameter from immediately to using a respond to webhook node, we can actually execute this full workflow and get the response back in our Lovable interface. So if I actually come over here and execute this, you can see that it is getting rows from inside the Google Sheet, because we basically asked it how much money a specific one of our clients has spent with us. As you can see, it already finished, and it sent this response back in our Lovable interface, and it says that David Huang has spent 5,400 USD with the organization, which if we come back over in our Google Sheet, we can see that collected to this day, which is the parameter that we actually asked for, is $5,400, which is exactly what our AI agent responded to us. So if I come back over in my N8N workflow over here and I unpin this, just to test this out with a different type of request, and I simply click on execute workflow, so this is expecting to receive data, and I come back over in my N8N interface, and let's say for example I want to schedule a meeting with Maria Thompson for today at 5 p.m. All I would have to do is come over here and say I want to schedule a meeting with Maria Thompson for today at 5 p.m. and then simply come over here and click on enter. And as you can see, all we have to do is to wait a little bit, because our AI agent over here is running in the background. It went over and got many events, and as you can see, it went over here and it created an event in our calendar, which if we open, we can see that it did successfully create an event for a meeting with Maria Thompson, which is the summary, in our Google Calendar for 5 p.m. today. And just to test the Gmail function as well, let's say we wanted to email Maria, telling her, hey, I've scheduled a meeting for us two for 5 p.m. today. All we would have to do is come over here and say, also email Maria for a scheduled meeting, and then we can come over here and click on enter, and we don't need to specify the date and time since our AI agent has access to memory, as you can see over here, which it actually used, so it knows that we have already scheduled a meeting for 5 p.m. and all we have to do is to simply find her Gmail from inside the Google Sheet and send over an email to her, which if we actually open this up, we will be able to see that the email was sent successfully. And specifically, it was sent to Maria Thompson, scheduled meeting for today at 5 p.m. As you can see, the agent uses memory because we had already told it before that the meeting was for 5 p.m. and this is the body of the email over here, which does look very good. So I think you guys can see how useful an AI dashboard like this can be, because it visually shows all the data that a business has and also is able to perform a bunch of different functions from this simple chat interface. Now we can obviously improve the output of the agent over here, basically tell it to don't give us this output, just say, hey, I have gone and performed this task, if it actually did it, and maybe slightly improve the way this interface looks. But I think you get the main point, which is how useful an AI dashboard like this can be to basically any business. And now it's the time where I will actually show you how I would go about selling an AI dashboard like this to businesses. And as I told you before, the way that we're going to do this is by setting up a cold email campaign. Specifically, the first thing that we have to do is to decide in which type of business owner we're going to sell this AI dashboard to. So let's say, for example, I think a very good niche would be lawyers, since we have already built it for lawyers in this example. So what I would personally do is I would go over to a lead database like Apollo, which basically has a lot of different leads that they have scraped from LinkedIn along with their email addresses, and then I will come over here and search for the specific needs that I'm targeting, which in our case again it is lawyers. So I would come over here and search for lawyer, and this would give me a lead list of 400,000 lawyers. Now, obviously, we need to filter through those leads, and we're going to do that by using these filters over here. The first filter that I'm going to use is I will only select verified emails. Then I will also come over here and filter for job titles from these people, and I will specifically select only for people that are higher up in the company, so project managers, teachers, owners, directors, etc., etc. Because we only want people that can make purchasing decisions, and they don't have to ask a billion people in order for them to make a decision. That's why you should target people that are higher up in the company. And then I will also come over here and I would filter for location. If I'm gonna be honest, I only target people in the United States, since they tend to have the most amount of buying power. But you can also target basically every first world country, Europe, Canada, etc., etc. But make sure the countries that you target actually do have buying power. And after you're done filtering your leads, you simply will have to come and export them from Apollo, and then come over to Instantly and set up a cold email campaign, as I have done over here with a campaign I literally set up 2 days ago for a different video. Now what you need to do in these campaigns is you need to come over here to where you see sequences, where you will basically have to write the copy of your emails, and then simply come over here to where you see leads, simply upload the leads you download it from Apollo and set your campaign live. Then all you have to do is simply sit back, wait, and Instantly is going to go and send over all those emails to all of these potential leads, and some of them are going to respond to you, so you can schedule a discovery call with them, where you will basically see if they are interested in the build, and you could potentially close them on the call right then and then. Now, if you found this process complex, or you think I went over it too fast, I actually explain it in detail inside my school community, which I have left a link for in the description below, where I go over exactly how you can find leads step by step, how you can start the campaign, how to message the clients, how to conduct the discovery call and close the client right then, and then how to onboard them and deliver the work. So if you want a more detailed guide for that, along with getting access to all the other content that I have inside my school community, which includes courses on how you can get paying AI and automation customers from 4 different methods, specifically from Upwork, from cold email, and from building an audience on YouTube and on Instagram, along with getting access to my 100-day roadmap, which basically guarantees you that you're going to get your first high-paying AI and automation customer, or I'm going to give you all of your money back guarantee, which basically means you have nothing to lose from joining the community, since you will either at least 5x your investment, or you're going to get all of your money back if you actually follow the roadmap, and get access to all the other content that I have inside my school community, which includes exclusive N8N builds that I only publish inside here, and also access to the series in which I build my own AI SaaS and I document the process exclusively inside the community. Plus, getting access to a community of more than 140 members that are interested in AI and, most importantly, making money with it just like you are, which means that you can make some very good friendships inside here. So don't wait and click the link in the description below and come and check out my school community. Also, YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video, in which I built a $1 million app using just Lovable N8N. So make sure you go and watch that next, and I will see you over there.